Chapter 5. The main salon was crowded. The huge room, glittering with mirrors and crystal, floored with thick carpets, and hung with rich drapes, had something of the appearance of a Sarkian harem. Although there were only 5 of the Alexander family present, there were at least 20 Lani, whose costumes ranged from the black G-string and halter of the household staff to the utter nudity of Douglas's playthings. They were all female, and Kennon wondered for a moment what a male was like. Besides Alexander, there were 2 men and 3 women. Douglas, still with his sulky expression, an older man in his late 90s who looked like Douglas's elder brother, 2 mature women who could be any age from 50 to 300, and a girl. She might have been 30, perhaps younger, perhaps older, a lean, feminine edition of Alexander, with the same intriguing face and veiled, predatory look. There was a hardness about her that was absent in the others. Kennon had the feeling that whatever this girl did, she didn't do it halfway. "My sister Eloise," Alexander said in a low voice. "Watch out for her. She's as deadly as a puff adder, and she collects men. The other man is Douglas's father, Henry. The plump redhead beside him is his wife, Anne. The other woman is my mother, Clara. Even though Eloise and I don't look like her, we take after father." "Where's he?" Kennon whispered. "Dead," Alexander replied. "He was killed 20 years ago." "I'd like to present Dr. Jac Kennon, our new veterinarian," Alexander said into the hush that followed their entrance. The introductions that followed were in proper form, and Kennon was beginning to feel more at ease until Eloise sent one of her Lani with a summons. He looked around for Alexander, but the entrepreneur was the center of a 3-cornered argument, hemmed in by Douglas, Henry, and Anne. Henry's voice was raised in bitter protest that Alexander was exceeding his authority. He shrugged. There was no help there. "All right," he said. "Tell your mistress I'll be along in a moment." "Yes, doctor," the Lani said, "but the woman Eloise says for you to come, and she is not accustomed to being disobeyed." "Tell her what I said," Kennon replied. "I shall be there directly." He crossed to the table and examined it, selecting a cluster of odd purple fruit which looked more interesting than it tasted. When he had finished, he walked leisurely over to where Eloise sat. She looked at him angrily. "I am accustomed to being obeyed by my employees," she said coldly. Her dark eyes, oddly like her brother's, traversed her hard body like twin scanners. He returned her appraising stare with one of his own. "I'm not your employee," he said bluntly. "I was hired by your brother, and there's a full peeper rider on my contract." His eyes traveled slowly over her carefully arranged hair, her makeup, her jewelry at throat and arms, her painted finger and toenails, and then across the slim, small-breasted lines of her body, half revealed under her thin, ankle-length tunic of Lyranian silk. "Satisfied?" she asked. "On Beta," he said bluntly, "your appearance would qualify you for a parasite camp. 6 months of hard labor would do you no end of good. You're soft, lazy, and undisciplined." Eloise gasped. "Why, she sputtered. "And perhaps next time you'll learn to be polite," Kennon continued. "After all, the superficial attributes of good breeding are not too hard to counterfeit." To his surprise, Eloise giggled. "You bite, don't you?" she asked. "Remind me to remember that." "I shall." "Of course, your actions weren't good breeding either." "Admitted, but I've never pretended to be what I'm not. I'm the son of a spaceship skipper, and I'm a veterinarian. That's all." "That's not all. You are also a man." Her face was sober. "It's been some time since I've met one. I'd almost forgotten they existed. There's your brother. Alec, he's a money-making machine. Come, sit beside me, and let's talk." "About what?" "You, me, your job, your life, anything you wish." "That line isn't exactly new," Kennon grinned. "I know," she admitted, "but it usually works." "I'm immune." "That's what you think." Eloise's eyes were frankly appraising. "I think I could become interested in you. I have a job here. I don't think I would have time to give you the attention you'd demand." I get bored easily. It probably wouldn't be long before I would be tired of you. Perhaps, and perhaps not. I can't afford to take the chance. You seem confident. You forget, I was a sailor. And spacemen have a reputation, eh? Eloise chuckled. At that, you might be right. I remember the first officer of... She let the thought die. But I became tired of him, she finished. Kennon smiled. I've never had that complaint. Perhaps you'd like to make the acid test, she asked. Perhaps, he said, but not tonight. Tomorrow, then. Alex will be leaving in the morning. He never stays more than a few hours. Eloise's eyes were bright, her lips moist and red. I'll pick the time, said, and added to himself, if ever. Despite her wealth, Eloise was no different from the port of call girls. If anything, she was worse, since she had enough money to implement her desires. They were merely in the trade for business reasons. No, Eloise would be something to steer clear of. Alexander was right. She was a man-trap. He stood up and bowed Baton fashion. I see your brother is free now. He wants to brief me on my duties here. We were discussing it before we entered. Eloise pouted. You can always do that. You said yourself that Alex never stays here very long. I would be a poor employee if I delayed him. He grinned knowingly at her, and she smiled back with complete understanding. Very well then, get your business done. Your pleasure can wait. Kennon steered Alexander over to an open window that led to a balcony. Whew, he said, I see what you mean. She's a Tartar, Alexander agreed. I suspect that she's a nymphomaniac. You suspect? Alexander asked. By this time you should know. Let's get out of here. I've had about all of your sister I care to take. Can't say as I blame you. I'll show you to your quarters. Maybe old Doc left a bottle or two, although I suspect the old sinner hung on until the last one was empty. If he had to put up with your relatives as a steady diet, I can't say that I blame him, Kennon said. Careful, Doctor. You're talking about my kinfolk, Alexander said wryly. At that, though, you have a point. The two men slipped quietly from the room. Apparently none of the family was conscious of their departure, except Eloise, who watched them leave with an enigmatic expression on her narrow face. They left the fortress through the rear gate and walked slowly down the winding path that led to the cluster of buildings in the valley below. It was a beautiful night, calm and clear, with the stars shining down from the dark vault of the heavens. The constellations were strange, and Kennon missed the moons. Beta had 3, 2 of which were always in the sky, but Kardon was moonless. Somehow it gave the sky an empty look. A damp coolness rose from the ground as the evening rain evaporated mistily into the still air. Kennon sniffed the odor of soil and growing vegetation, clean, pleasant odors in contrast to what he had left. In the distance, a bird called sleepily from one of the fortress turrets and was answered by some creature Kennon couldn't identify. A murmur of blended sound came from the valley below, punctuated by high-pitched laughter. Someone was singing, or perhaps chanting would be a better description. The melody was strange and the words unrecognizable. The thin whine of an atom motor in the fortress's generating plant slowly built up to a keening undertone that blended into the pattern of half-perceived sound. Nice, isn't it? Alexander remarked as they rounded another turn on the switchback path. Yes, you can't hear a sound from back there, except for that generator. It's almost as though we shut those people out of existence by merely closing a door. I wish it were that simple, Alexander said. But doors that can be closed can also be opened. Well, think you'll like it here? I think so, providing I don't have to entertain your relatives. You mean Eloise? Don't worry about her. She's as fickle as the wind. I've never seen anyone so frankly predatory, Kennon said. She worries me. They'll all be gone tomorrow, except for Eloise, Alexander said with mock comfort. Douglas is on the Oddpens for a year, and the others are off somewhere. You'll be staying, I suppose. No, I'm afraid I can't. I hoped you'd help me get organized. This whole thing has been something of a shock. I was expecting something entirely different. Sorry, someone has to run the business, but Blalock will brief you. Actually, he's more qualified than I. He knows everything worth knowing about this place. We're going past his house in a minute. Want to stop in and see him? It's pretty late. Not for Blalock. He's a mystic, a nocturnal. He's probably doing his work now. Perhaps we shouldn't disturb him. Nonsense. He's used to it. I visit him frequently at night. Sure, but you're the boss. Well, in a sense, you are too, at least in the veterinarian end of this business. Alexander swung sharply to the left and climbed a short flight of stairs that led to the nearest house. Lights flared on the deep porch, and the old-fashioned iris door dilated to frame the black silhouette of a stocky, broad-shouldered man. "Good evening, sir," he said. "I was expecting you. That the new vet with you?" "Your pipeline's still working," Alexander said. "Yes, this is Dr. Kennon, Ewald Blalock. I wanted you two to meet." Kennon liked the gray, middle-aged man.